And we're live and I believe on time. Hi, everybody. Hi,
Hi.
Cara. Hi, Michelle.
Hi
Hi.
there.
I want to introduce everybody to Michelle. She's setting in as our special guest. She has lots of ghost experiences and stuff. So I hope and I know she's going to be on further shows. So I'm excited about tonight. So, Cara, hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. I was just muting my phone because you know that thing goes off.
They do. So, Cara, if you haven't been here before, is our gifted storyteller and pulling in all these true stories about ghosts and her own experiences, as well as myths and different things about the United States. And tonight we're going to be doing just like we have been doing. We're going to be talking about like mansions, big houses that are haunted. And it's so exciting. We have, how many houses do we have?
Tonight we have four, and hopefully they're so jam packed. Hopefully we get through all four of them.
Oh, gosh. Then we got to start pretty soon. Hi, Kate. How are
Hi,
you?
Kate.
And I ask everybody to share the show. Let's get this shared so much that we have a huge amount of people that watch it. That would be really great. So people are coming on board. And Michelle, I want to tell everybody you're Michele Fenlon. Fenlon. Say
Fenlon.
I did. I messed it up, didn't I? I mess everybody's up. But anyway, Michelle, we're so excited because we collaborate with you on a lot of projects and we wanted to pull you in because we know that we all have this haunted things that happen. You and I have a lot of similar things that happen,
Uh-huh.
and synchronicities, with the
Oh,
TV
yeah.
set and all that jazz,
Definitely.
which is really fun. Hi, Carlos.
Hi,
Hi,
Carla.
Guna.
Hi, Carlos.
Everybody saying hi to each other. Um, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to go ahead and give this to you, Cara, to start in. But we're going to do which house first?
we
I'm
are
going to
gonna
bring up
do
a picture.
we're gonna do the Sally, aka Sally, however else anyone pronounces it, house in Atchison, Kansas. And this house was built at the
Okay.
turn of the
There we
century.
go.
Yeah, it's not a real huge house, but it's haunted. It's got enough in there. Um, it was built in the turn of the century, not this past turn of the century, but back in the early 1900s. And a doctor bought it for his family. And what he did is he converted the first floor into an office and exam rooms for seeing, his clients. And then his family lived on the second floor, his wife and children. And one day, this woman came in frantically carrying her child. Her daughter, Sally, collapsed from severe abdominal pain. So the doctor examined her and he diagnosed that it was appendicitis. And so he took her to his like little operating room in the house. And he was so worried that that her appendix was going to burst that he started cutting on this poor child before the anesthesia took effect.
Oh my God.
So she screamed and screamed in agony until her body went limp and she turned real pale and she died on the operating table. But her last memory was of a man that she thought was torturing her.
Mm.
Really, really sad.
Very.
I mean, because her screams can still be heard too. It's very, very hard to believe that someone could do that. I think he thought he was doing something, to save her life, but in actuality, it probably killed her. I bet you her
Mhm.
heart gave out from the pain. But this house is extremely haunted. As a matter of fact, many skeptics have gone into that house saying that they didn't believe in ghosts or anything. But sure enough, they come out believers, 100% believers. And some of the hauntings really started happening in 1993. A young couple moved into the house in 1993, and their dog started growling at absolutely nothing right outside of the second story nursery. Wouldn't go in there, just growled and growled and growled. As a matter of fact, they have had people who have been blind and have had seeing eye dogs. The seeing eye dogs stop at that room and growl and will not go in that room. They can't pull them in that room. They won't go. There's something that the dogs feel that they will not go near that room. But the haunting started turning violent. The young man from, the husband, he started getting like physically abused, severe scratches and marks were found all over his stomach and especially his abdomen. Like someone was trying to rip his stomach open, basically.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was getting deep, deep cuts and scratches right there on his chest and abdomen.
And the funny thing, or not funny, but the weird thing is, I've seen this. I've seen it while it's happening. And two people, as I ran up to them to help them, they were getting scratched on the legs and on the arms. And you could see it scratch and so deep that the skin would, go up. And
Yeah,
it's like, oh my gosh, we had to do first aid and all of that. Yeah, it's just, it happens.
yeah. And
Yeah.
his were seen happening as they happened too. The operating room where she died has, I mean, you could have the room at 75 degrees. Certain parts of that room, you walk to it and it's like you walked into a different room, like there's air conditioning or something. It's such a cold, cold spot.
Mm-hmm.
And visitors have felt this. Of course, the family who lived there before. Now it's like a tourist thing. But then they've also had objects physically move, especially when the husband was near the objects or would be near that room. Objects would come and they would fly. Just get up and move and fly.
You know what? I have a girlfriend who has a very extremely haunted house. She's moved from it, but something keeps going with them. And she had glasses fly out of the cupboards and crash on the floor. That was a common thing in the kitchen. She had fires start, all kinds of stuff like that. So, but we knew that it was connected to her husband.
Yeah. Well,
And so that's when all the stuff would happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's not, and it wasn't just him. When they opened this as a tourist attraction, visitors, and I'm wondering because they don't necessarily distinguish if the visitors were male or female, but visitors have been scratched. They've had bruises. They have been touched by something like in a violent way, and they felt the cold spots by that nursery and by that operating room. Don't know what the significance of the nursery is because there really is no history saying whether or not anything bad happened to any of his children. But I know the hauntings, that they were haunted. The doctor and his family were haunted by whatever was there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
it's,
I think sometimes, a lot of bad things happen that, nobody finds out about.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Michelle?
Something that came to mind when you were talking about what happened to them is my son was dating a girl, Allie, at the time, and she had, after her mother had passed away, she had noticed some supernatural activity happening in the house. And they went down to the kitchen one morning, and all of the cabinet drawers and doors were open at exactly the same, like 1 inch apart. So at first when I heard this, I thought, oh, come on. But they were physically shaken. And Mitch had stayed over one more night. And in the middle of the night, he had felt burning on his arm. And when he woke up in a panic, he had 3 like finger scratches across his arm, and it felt burning. So I know that stuff like this, does happen.
that is really creepy.
There's a question. Could possibly the nursery be where the operation took place?
No, the operation took place on the first floor in the they still have it as an operating room, or they, for the tours. The nursery is on the second floor.
Okay.
So it's two different rooms, and that's why I said I'm not sure of why so much of the anguish, unless since she was a 6-year-old little child, maybe she was drawn to that room when she started,
Mhm.
when she passed over and started haunting, because it
She
is
might,
right above the
yeah,
operating.
yeah. She's staying in her own room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds right.
yeah, that's what I think. But I thought that was an interesting little story to get us started. It's a tiny little house, but big ghosts.
Yeah,
A
that's
good start.
crazy. Yes, it is.
And we're actually going to stay in the Midwest, and we are going to move to Missouri, to St. Louis to be exact, to the Lemp Mansion. Now, this one is just crazy. The Lemp Mansion is beautiful. God, it is absolutely
It
gorgeous.
is.
But it's terrifying. It's one of the 10 most haunted houses in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And it actually, Johann Lemp arrived in the United States in 1838. And he started this he started this grocery store where he sold, goods and things, regular general store type of thing. But he also sold his homemade beer, a recipe that he brought back from his father from Germany
Hmm.
when he immigrated. And by 1840, he had been making so much money that he gave up the grocery store and he built a brewery in St. Louis. And he sold the beer at a pub that he had built attached to the brewery. So it was kind of like, you have the microbreweries today where they have a restaurant and stuff. It's kind of like that. And then he, for the lager process, because his beer was a light. It wasn't a dark lager. It was a very light, like you'd see like a Miller Lite today, very light beer. And the caves underneath there in St. Louis, there are some limestone caves that are really cold. So he would put the beer down there for the lager process, and then go and break up pieces of ice from the Mississippi River and take the ice down there, and the cave would get even colder. And that was how he did his cold refrigeration to cool down his lager.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And in 1858, he actually won first place at the St. Louis State Fair for his beer. His beer won the first place all over the state. And that's where he just kind of, the business just kind of picked off, just took off. And his son William, now he died in 1862, but his son William took over the business, and he expanded the heck out of this business. He built it onto the brewery, and he built a huge storage house above the caves, so that once the beer went through its process, he could take it up there into the storage. And it became 5 city blocks.
Oh, gee.
5 city blocks. And then in about 6 years later, his father-in-law had built this house, the Lent Mansion. And he bought it from his father-in-law in 1868 or in 1870, around there. And he actually had underneath in the basement, he had a tunnel built to go to the caves, and did all, and used the, one of the first floor parlors as an office, like an auxiliary office. And then once the caves were not needed, well, I should say right before that, he built an auditorium in the caves and a theater.
Wow.
Wow, I
And then,
didn't know they were that big.
then he built a underground cemented in swimming pool, and he had warm water, hot water pumped into the swimming pool from the brewery. So it was, that's kind of crazy. I know, it's really crazy. But he had the other thing that he did was, like I said, he expanded this whole business, but tragedy started falling on the family. His son died. He was only 28 years old. He died in 1901 of heart failure, and his name was Frederick. And I always got a kick out of that because my brother's name is William Frederick, and they were William and Frederick. So, but he got so despondent, and he just kind of pulled away from the business and things, and I think let his other son, William Jr., take over a lot of the responsibilities. And then his best friend, and you'll know this name, Frederick Pabst, as in Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer.
Mm-hmm.
Best friend died in 1904 on New Year's Day. And that just destroyed him. Within a couple of years, he lost his favored son and his best friend.
Yeah.
So about a month and a half after Frederick Pabst died, he went up to his office and he shot himself in the head with a .38 revolver, Smith & Wesson.
Oh, gee.
How sad.
Very sad. And it took until November. I don't know if it was probate or what it was, but his son, William Jr., took over the business around November of that year. So it took about 9 months. But then him and his wife started going on I should say a big, huge spending spree. They built luxury things onto the house. They made the caves a showroom because they no longer needed them for cold storage because they had refrigeration coming. Mm-hmm. That's also where he used that as his personal bachelor pad for his Casanova days. He was kind of a jerk, but his wife Lillian, he told her, he gave her $1,000 a day and told her if she didn't spend that, she wouldn't get any more. He said he expected his wife to spend money every day, and she had to spend that $1,000 that he gave her every day, or she would not get any more from him.
You don't hear that very often.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He did it because he was cheating on her. He had mistresses all over town. It was to keep her out of the way.
Keeps her busy.
Yeah.
And she's known as the Lavender Lady. She most of the clothes that she wore were lavender. As a matter of fact, she had the bridles for her horses, for her carriages, dyed purple or lavender. Everything was lavender. He actually fathered a child, and this is part of the tragedies of the home. He fathered a child by one of his mistresses, and the child had Down syndrome. And you see those windows way on top, right below the roof, those little square windows, the tiny ones.
Yeah.
That's where his illegitimate son with Down syndrome lived. Those are the servants' quarters up there. And that is where he was kept all of his life. Because and they actually called him Monkey Face Boy because he had Down syndrome. And that's what he was referred to as. But he was the hidden secret. And then she put up with all of this. And then in 1908, this jerk decides to divorce her and tried to get custody of their child, William III. And he almost did it. All the scandals were coming out. People were talking about the illegitimate child and stuff. But his lawyer brought a picture into the courtroom, and it almost cost her son and any spousal support. It was a picture of her smoking a cigarette.
Oh, gee.
And she almost lost custody of her child for smoking a cigarette.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And during this time too, you're coming up on Prohibition was only a few short years away, but he was squandering the money. He wasn't paying attention to the brewery. So sales began to decline and everything. And by the time Prohibition hit, he messed up all of his workers. Instead of doing what some of the other breweries did and making root beer or some other kind of, drink.
Right.
or sarsaparilla, anything like that. It was non-alcoholic. The workers came to work the next day, and there were chains on the gates, and the doors were sealed. They weren't told. They didn't get their last paychecks. They weren't told that the brewery was closed. Nothing. He just did that. And then, of course, more tragedy struck right after that. The next year in 1920, his sister Elsa was disheartened by the failure or the cracks in her marriage. So she did exactly what their father did. She took a and she shot herself in the head.
Oh, gee.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then not even, well, she actually, it's funny. Not funny, it's ironic. She killed herself on my birthday, 3/20/1920.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of freaky. And then 9 months later, right before New Year's on the 29th of December, he shot and killed himself in the house too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Such tragedy in that family.
Yes.
Yeah. What was going on?
I know. Well, it gets worse. His brother Charles moved into the house. Now, Charles and their other brother, Edwin, didn't want anything to do with the brewery, and they had kind of moved away and had their own lives. And Charles moved in to the mansion and lived there with 2 servants and his illegitimate nephew. And then his nephew died in his 30s. I think it was in 1943. The child with Down syndrome died in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then Charles, all of a sudden, see, something about this house. He became a germaphobe, like psychotic germaphobe. Had severe OCD just form out of nowhere. He had been fine his whole life away from the family. The minute that he moved into that house, all these things started coming through. Guess what he did?
Oh no.
But he was worse. He had a beloved Doberman, like my Dakota, and he took the dog into the basement and he shot the dog.
Oh my gosh.
He walked up to the 2nd floor and he shot himself. The worst part is he didn't even make sure that his dog was dead so he wasn't suffering.
Mm-hmm.
His dog was not found in the basement. When he was found on May 10th, a couple days later, his dog was found halfway up the stairs. The dog crawled and died on the stairs trying to get out of the basement.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So sad.
Though, when people turn to the, OCD and then they end up being a germaphobe, well, the most famous one that comes to mind was Howard Hughes.
Yeah.
And all that money, and he living with an air conditioner in a little room, something must snapped, But how selfish to kill your dog.
I know that thing, that's what bothered me, I think, more about anything else. You want to kill yourself, but why kill your Doberman? If it's your beloved, I could not, if I, God forbid, did something to myself, I sure as hell wouldn't take my dog, Dakota, with me. That's my baby. I wouldn't harm her.
So how many people off themselves? I mean, how many people killed themselves?
Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then now the last lamp it left in the whole line, the last lamp was Edwin. And he lived to be a ripe old man. He died in 1970. You know why? He never went back to that mansion. He never lived in that home, and he never took any of the money from the brewery.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh!
But it gets darker. I mean, they turned it into a boarding house. He sold it off. He didn't want anything to do with it. He didn't want anything to do with the brewery. Nothing. So they turned it into a nice boarding house. I mean, it's a beautiful home.
It is, yeah.
So so people well-to-do or people who were, had money could, board there if they were coming through town or had business or whatever. Kind of like a bed and breakfast or a hotel,
Yeah.
But then they started hearing ghostly knocks. There were phantom steps all through the house. The tenants started to leave. They said they couldn't stay there. They would hear cries. They would hear screams. They could hear, there were a couple of people who said they heard gunshots.
Yeah.
And it freaked them out. And so the building started to deteriorate, and it ended up being a flop house because they couldn't get anybody to actually rent, any decent people to rent. So it ended up being like, and even then, even the people who were on their last penny and trying to find a place to live could not go into there, couldn't stay long. And it was finally bought by a family who wanted to turn it into a restaurant/inn and restore it to its former glory.
Mm-hmm.
They had problems with their workers. The workers would leave for the day and not come back because the workers were seeing apparitions. They were hearing strange sounds. Their tools were disappearing, literally vanishing. They were being, what do you call it? They were seeing things lift off of shelves as they're doing things. And they couldn't do it. They just could not be there. And it took them a long time to get it turned into the inn and the restaurant because of how many workers they went through. And then once it was turned in, then the staff who worked it, they said glasses would lift off the bars, fly through the air, and crash. Lights went on and off by themselves constantly. Doors would lock and unlock, where they get locked into somewhere and then it would unlock. And the most of the activity took place in the stairway, the attic, and what the people who worked there nicknamed it the gates of hell in the basement, which is the one that's leading to the caves. They called it the gates of hell.
Appropriate.
Yeah. And in the attic, they say that most is seen in one of those windows, and it doesn't say which one, but in one of the windows in the attic, the illegitimate son is seen peering out the window. You can see him. Look up, see him, and he's
amazing.
People. I mean, can you imagine spending some years of your life?
Is this still a restaurant, or is it still standing? What's the status?
It's still, and it's open, and they post tours, and you experience things there. As a matter of fact, I was going to say they did some ghost investigations, and investigators left toys and then put a circle of chalk around the toy in the attic. And then they'd go back the next day and the toy will be moved. It won't be there anymore. And William the second, William Jr., he's a little bit of a pervert. When his bathroom is now the women's restroom in the restaurant. And women will be there, and his creepy self will peer over the stalls at them and freak them out.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, peers over the stalls and looks at them. And then there's constant running up and down the stairs that's heard too. So I
can imagine that it's so unnerving for the wait staff and everyone that they just so many people that we'd be in on it. We'd have our K2 meter. We're good. We're going to talk to him. We'll chase him.
Right.
But so many people's like, they just see something that's like, walk out. We quit. Gone.
Yeah. There's a lot to that. And I would love to go into the caves. I mean, I think the pool and everything is still there. I don't know I doubt if it's operational, but who knows? Maybe the inn uses it if they have the rights to that, because I don't know how it was divided up when it was sold. The brewery was sold to some other company who manufactured something else, not even beer, and then the house. But I don't know how the caves and the tunnels were divided.
Hey, Michelle, would you go stay there?
I would.
Me
and I
too.
would say that would be something to see. Would be the caves.
Yeah.
I would definitely want to go down there.
That's what I want to do. I want to go through those gates of hell.
I know.
Road trip.
Yes.
It's
Where are
only-
you going? We're going to see the gates of hell and go in.
It's only 2 hours from me, so.
And I haven't heard of this one, so this is fascinating.
Oh, it is, and I just love the look of the house and just the grandeur. And then, I'm wondering, up on the top there, you see that wrought iron fence. I wonder if there's a walkway where they, a staircase that goes up, and that's like a place that you can go on the actual roof, like that.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Widow's Walk or something. I want to call it Witch's Walk, but the Widow's Walk. You could see around the building a little bit where they may have had a turret or something over there too. It looks awfully big to me.
Yeah, there is a turret on the side. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is.
I'm in. I'd go.
I'd go too.
I just can't believe so many people killed themselves. Something had to be going on. Maybe it's just mental. What do you guys feel like? Just mental health issue, or?
I think it's just maybe the house is just filled with sorrow, or maybe the land is cursed. Brandy's coming.
We're getting a van. We're going to get a van. Awesome.
I got one.
Okay. Oh, there we go. We're all set. Sleeping bags.
What do you think, Michelle, with all the death, with all the suicides?
There's something definitely, it really begs to question what was happening in the house and why did all of these people feel the way they do. And it just seems like an unusual coincidence that the entire family basically killed themselves in the home. Yeah. But, Mitchell, he's a painter. And one day he and the rest of his crew went into a home. And as soon as they stepped in, Mitch said something came over him, that he knew instantly that something tragic had happened and he didn't want to work there. He didn't want to be in the house. He felt so uncomfortable that he had to leave. So, I mean, sometimes, you just don't know what a house, what kind of history the house has, what kind of memories, what kind of experiences it has. Yeah. And it just keeps that, through the years.
Oh, yeah. If they're going to commit suicide, and so many, would we say 5 of them did it, there's, that's going to stay in there. And,
it's no wonder it's haunted.
And you have to wonder about the son who was healthy, and then all of a sudden had a heart ailment and just died at the age of 28. Mm-hmm. That's, I mean, and it's all with that house,
And what did they say was the cause of death?
Some kind of heart ailment just came on him.
28 years old.
So you have to wonder if there's something that cursed the family long before they came, because it seemed like, the more money they made, the more curses were happening, if that makes any sense.
Well, he could have had, he's 28. He could have had rheumatic fever when he was young. That could put a hole in the heart and stuff like that. True. But they had the child that had Down syndrome. Did they ever let him out? Do we know that?
No, a lot of people tried to say that, he wasn't, that was a rumor or whatever, but it was brought up in the court in the divorce proceeding. And obviously the boy is buried in the family plot. His Uncle Charles buried him there. So obviously the boy was real. And back then, if you had if you had any problem physically, or if you had a lower IQ, or if you had any kind of mental health issue, if you had money, your person was locked away in the attic.
Right. Terrible. Terrible.
That poor thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
He could have had a good life if they had put him in an institution, for people who had issues. Mm-hmm. He probably would have had a than being trapped in an attic.
Well, the thing is depending on where you're going back historically, they're put in insane asylums with everybody else.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like they have today. They have these wonderful, loving homes, group homes and stuff. You hide them away somewhere and you don't know what they do. So, well, this is the worst house of tragedy I've ever heard of.
Yeah. Oh, and if you look in the front there, you see that piece of concrete next to the parking meter. That is where the carriages used to stop, and that was the step.
Oh, the step.
Okay. Yep, it's still there.
How cool!
Yeah, I added the name of the house.
Yeah, Lent Mansion in St. Louis, and the restaurant is still open. Are you frozen? Oh, okay, I thought you were frozen. So I double heard myself. Here. So, yeah. Now the Franklin Castle that's coming up has some. It's another German. Another German owned this house.
Oh, pretty!
It is so cool. We all want to buy that.
Love it.
Oh my gosh, it's great.
Now, this German, his name was Hans Tiedemann, and he built this house. Now, it wasn't this big at first. He actually, between 1881 and 1883, started adding onto the house because he wanted to cure his wife of the grief from when their daughter died. Emma, she had diabetes, and I want to say she wasn't super young, but I think she was maybe 14, 15, something like that. But she died from diabetes in 1881. And then soon after, 3 of their other kids died, one after the other, and his mother. So all this tragedy happened, and he was trying to help his wife, Louise, with her grief. So he started building onto the house, which he finished it in 3 years. But his wife died from liver failure in 1895. So she spent 13, 14 years in the house, but she was, some people say she just never recovered. 4 children she lost.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of grief. And then the house was sold in 1895, but by 1908, when he died, the whole family was annihilated. Every single family member, just like the Lemps. Everyone was gone. And there were some smatterings of people talking about hauntings, but it wasn't really that prolific until 1968 when the Romano family moved in. Now, this was a family with a mother and father and 6 kids. And the very first day that they moved in, 2 of the kids were on the the 3rd floor, I think. And they saw a girl standing there in a white dress, which typically is what you were buried in back then, especially if your parents
did you just hear that?
What was it?
Did you just hear that, Debbie?
Yes.
What was that?
I thought it was something that was around Cara. I didn't hear anything in my house.
I didn't hear anything in my house either. Cara, did you hear that?
Did you? It was a real big sound.
Was that the motorcycle?
Oh, that could have been.
It could have been something driving by.
Okay, because I don't have the headset plugged in.
Yeah.
So I'm using the desktop microphone and everything. So because I didn't even think it was that loud for you guys to hear it. I mean, I barely heard it.
It was quite loud. Whatever it was.
Coming after me.
Yeah.
They don't like me talking about this Franklin Castle. Maybe that's it.
And I didn't realize it at first. It was like after the fact. I was like, wait a minute, what was that?
Okay. Sounded
Someone else
like
heard it too. Sounded like thunder. It sounded like something like that. Yeah.
Okay. I did not hear it. So that's weird. Maybe you guys are catching something that's like here hanging with me.
A motorbike going past. Yeah, maybe it was, huh, Cara?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a motorbike, but it was kind of low. It wasn't like one of those souped up ones, but
Okay.
I mean,
You'll have
I'm
to
surprised
listen
you guys
to
were able
the
to hear it.
replay. The
Debunked.
replay of the show.
Yeah. We need to debunk it. But yeah, it's funny that it starts right where I'm talking about 3 children seeing a ghost of another child.
Yeah.
They were on the 2nd floor or the 3rd floor, and they saw this girl crying, and she was wearing a white dress, like probably a dress that you would have worn, if you died a young girl. They ran down the stairs to their mother, and they're like, whoa, and she went up there, and there was nothing there. No remnants of this child. But they had a lot of encounters with ghosts. I mean, there was crying, there was, like crying babies and things like that. And then organ music was a big one, and heavy steps. But 2 of the kids one night were woke up with someone ripping their blankets off of them. And the mom, a lot of the stuff, and she believed that it was Louise Tiedemann, haunting her, because she had 6 children that were healthy, maybe. I don't know. But she woke up screaming on the floor of her bedroom, and right next to her was an entity screaming right along beside her. And it terrified. Yeah, it actually terrified her. And the
you
whole
had like I don't know if it was a little insect or an orb go up, because I've got you kind of miniature. I couldn't see what went past you, but it shot up.
Flies. There's no flies here at all. So
it shot up. Yeah.
Okay, guys. I'm just getting through these stories. I promise. But the crying, and then the woman in the window, they believe, is also Louise. There's a woman in the window that hangs out, and there are cold spots in certain parts of the house. In the 1 bedroom where it's believed that Emma died, and but there's some strange things. They got so bad with the things that were kind of attacking the mother that she went to a priest, and the priest advised them to move out, get out, and they did, and they sold it, and it's had several people who have done ghost hunting there. And one of them, a gentleman, had a recorder. The recorder was ripped out of his hands, thrown down the stairs, and shattered into a million pieces. And then there's an odd vapors that show up in the house, just appear, like fog rolling in, but just appear out of nowhere. And it's, I don't even know how to explain some of the weird things that, they actually did an exorcism at this house. They actually had someone do an exorcism. I don't think it worked.
Of who, Cara?
An exorcism of the house for the malevolent spirit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I call it clearing. But when we have so much history and so much going on in a big house, you have to do all of it. And you can't do it just once. You piss them off, actually. When you start to do something we're going to do something and we're going to push you out and it's uncomfortable, it just makes them mad. I tell everybody, okay, we're going to do this. They're going to get pissed off. So no, they're going to be even worse than they were. Then we're going to come back and we're going to do it again. And if we have to, again, and that should take it out. But boy, they just get really, really bad.
Yeah. They don't want to leave.
Yeah, that's their home.
That's their home.
Yeah.
But if it was my house, I'd get them the little ghosty butts out because I like that house.
Yeah, well, there is one certain room. It's not in all of them, but there's one certain room where. Oh, thank you, Kimmy. There's one certain room that there are cold spots in a certain section of the room that are always there. And again, I'm wondering if that's the room that Emma died in, or maybe one of the other children died in, or maybe that's where the mother died, herself.
Yeah.
But it's just one certain room.
Well, now what is the status of this house now? I mean,
it is. I believe they do ghost tours and things. No, actually, wait a minute. No, I don't think they do them anymore. I think finally, a private citizen bought it, because actually, this house. The funny thing about this house is it was actually once owned by the last husband of Judy Garland. He bought it. He bought it in night. This house has paid has I mean, he bought it for like $260,000. I mean, in 1984. And
where is it?
Huh?
And where is it?
Ohio.
Ohio. Okay.
And he did a lot of restoration and things on it, and he sold it in, I think, 1990, or well, actually, he put it up for sale in 1994. No one had lived in it or bought it until 1999. People there don't talk about ghosts or anything. I think that they're kind of,
I wonder if he thought it was haunted or not. Why would you buy that?
Yeah.
With that history.
Yeah. He bought it. Yeah, he bought it, did some restoration, and sold it. It still hasn't been sold. I would think that looks like $1 million home to me or more. But
if it was in my neighborhood, it would be over $2 million. Easy.
In Chicago, it would be well over $2 million.
Yeah, for sure. It's beautifully done.
It's gorgeous.
It is.
Okay. We all want to stay there too.
Yes, I want to go.
Just a little crazy that way, but we like the haunted houses.
I'll go make friends. I'll go make friends for us with the owners. I'll just pop in. I have a flat tire or something, and then I'll be like,
"Can we use your phone?"
Yeah, can we use
all of us with our bags? Yeah, we're ready. We have all this equipment.
So they can't throw us out. Yeah.
Oh, it'll be fun. Another road trip with your van, picking up our followers as we go. So we'll go together. Be awesome.
And our last story for the night is one that this one is definitely another road trip. It's in the South, but this is the Myrtles Plantation. Wow. It's got an S on the end there, not like Myrtle Beach. The Myrtles Plantation.
Beautiful.
And beautiful, but extremely freaking haunted.
Well, we love that.
And there's pictures. There is absolute proof, pictures that have been proven to be real and not Photoshop. They didn't have photo. I don't think they had a real good Photoshop program back then when they were taken. But the pictures have been examined by the Discovery Channel. They've been examined by someone who's an expert in photos and photoshopping, and they have been deemed 100% authentic. But I'll talk about those photos after I give you some dark history on the place. There was a whiskey rebellion in the 1700s. And there was a general whose name was General Dave Bradford, but his nickname was Whiskey Dave. Now, they had what we would have today, an arrest warrant out for his butt. So in 1796, he fled out of the USA and went to a Spanish colony, which was called Bayou Serra, which is where the Myrtles Plantation is. And one of the Spanish generals, or I don't know what they exactly called them, took favor on him and gave him a land grant for 650 acres where this plantation is now built. So he built this, and he had a ton of slaves. And then, of course, the Louisiana Purchase, kind of was happening in the early 1800s, and Louisiana eventually became part of the United States. Um, but by then, I mean, he sold, I think in 1820 is when he sold it to his son-in-law, Judge Clark Woodruff, which is where a lot of the bad juju comes from. He remodeled it, and he put, you see that beautiful porch, that veranda, and all those intricate details on that. That's all like wrought iron.
Mm-hmm.
That is all handcrafted.
Wow.
He expanded the house for his wife and his children. They had 3 children, and he eventually sold it to, I mean, we'll talk about the ghosts with him in a minute, but he sold it in 1834, just giving you some background, to Ruffin Sterling, who actually completed the mansion and finished all the other stuff that now is what you see when you go there, which, by the way, you can sleep there. You can go there. And some of the hauntings that started it actually are from ghosts or of a slave girl by the name of Chloe. Now, there are some people who say some of this is myth and some is fact. I'm going to let you decide. Chloe worked for Clark Woodruff and his wife. And one of the rumors was that he forced her to be his mistress, and that the choice was either be able to be a house slave out of the heat and have a little more comfiness, but you'd have to sleep with your master, or refuse that and then be stuck in the fields and ate up by down there the mosquitoes are as big as a dog. And in one of the variations, she did sleep with him, but she got paranoid, thinking that the wife would find out and that she'd be punished by the wife, that she started eavesdropping and putting her ear to the keyhole of doors when the family was talking privately. And then rumor has it that he or his wife opened the door and found her eavesdropping, so they cut off her ear. And the rest of her life, she had to wear a turban. It was a green turban that she wore to cover her ear that was missing. And this is where the story also varies. In one of the stories on Chloe, she used oleander, which is poisonous, to bake a birthday cake. And she was going to feed it to the family. Now, some people say it was to get revenge for them cutting off her ear. And some say it was because she had been tossed out into the fields because of the eavesdropping after they cut her ear off. And she was trying to win favor and thinking that the new house girl and the new mistress of the master of the house, that she would get blamed for it, for them getting sick, and that she would come in and save the day, save them from the poisoning, and that it backfired. Sarah and 2 of her children died from the oleander. And people say that because that happened, the other slaves, because the master was gone, Clark Woodruff was out of town, the other slaves took her and hung her from that tree that's in the front here.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she was dead, they took her body and they threw it in the Mississippi River, which is, right there. The weird thing is that they never found, now her name might have been a variation, or maybe that was just a name that people gave to her and her name was something different. In all the slave registries, they never found a Chloe listed to him and his wife. So it's possible that either the name was changed or the story was enhanced. But the ghost that has been found on the picture is a ghost with a turban.
Oh, wow.
Something in the story is right. And people say that the wife and the children weren't poisoned, that they died of yellow fever. How would you know back then? When you're dying from a poisoning of oleander, it could mask the, people could think it's yellow fever, but it's actually oleander poisoning.
Right.
So, but yes, Chloe has been seen hanging around and she's been photographed. She was photographed in 1992 by the owner at the time, who was taking insurance photos because they wanted to know how far the breezeway was from the, I guess the summer kitchen or the general store. And when she took the picture, an outline of a woman, perfect shaped head, body, everything was in the picture. It wasn't there when she took it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
That picture has been through the ringer with the Discovery Channel, with professional people who are professional photographers who know all about the photoshopping and investigate. And they even had someone who did forensic investigating look at this picture, and this picture is 100% real. It's an apparition. And then there's another crazy picture. Up on the porch, there were these two women who were visiting, on one of the tours. And they took, it looks like a selfie, but someone could have been holding it for them. But, it looks like they're going like this. Behind them in the window is a young girl in an antebellum dress with her hair up, perfect form in the window, the whole shadow of her, and she's see-through. And
That's great.
That picture has been authenticated too.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy things and a lot of legends, but there is some support. There is some support for the history of it, but some people just have different, what they believe or what they want their reality to be, as opposed to what is historical. Now, Sarah and her two of her children, which also leads me to believe that maybe some of this Chloe business is right. Back then, and still in the Jewish faith, but back then, you covered all of the mirrors in the house when someone died, because you didn't want their souls trapped in a mirror. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently, when Sarah and her two children died, one of the mirrors was missed in this giant house. And that mirror, you see, people have seen the apparition of Sarah and her two children, as well as handprints on the mirror. Little handprints showing up. Yeah. And there was a girl who died there in, I want to say 1868. She still haunts the room where she died, because and one of the weird things is they were trying to help her, save her, by using voodoo. Okay. And it didn't work. She still died. So now she lurks there, and people who have stayed in that room, she tries to practice voodoo on them while they're sleeping.
Oh, jeez. Oh, no.
Yeah. And then the one of the most famous ghosts, and this is, his life was verified and everything, was a man who had owned the house. He had bought it from his father-in-law, like they used to do. Instead of the daughter inheriting something, the husband would buy it from the father-in-law. But anyways, he was walking out that front door, not the one where you have the railing, but that front door over there, and someone shot him in the chest. Mm-hmm. And he staggered back into the house and started to run, and then stagger up the stairs, and finally crawl up the stairs to his wife, calling for her. And he died on the 17th stair in her arms. And the weird thing is that his ghost is seen running and then staggering and then crawling up those stairs, and it always stops at the 17th stair. People numerous people have seen his ghost do this, go from the front door like in a panic and head up those stairs. I mean, how crazy is that?
Replaying his death.
Yeah, he's replaying it over and over again. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of scary, but they've caught some things on tape too. So and there's also a Native American woman. So they also said that this was built on an ancient Indian burial ground.
Mm-hmm.
And a Native American woman is seen in the gazebo all the time, an old Native American woman.
Wow.
So yeah, this is a lot in this house. I want to go here too, guys. I want to stay the night. I want the scariest bedroom. Yeah.
Okay, it's like a B&B and you're eating in the dining room and the rolls are flying through the air and stuff.
You're catching them.
Do you want to go in the voodoo room, Cara?
I do, but I'm not going alone. You guys are coming with me.
I'll go too.
I'll go first. Good. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Cara, for all
These
these
are great
stories.
I
How
know.
fun. Well, we're at the top of the hour, as they say. And thank you guys for listening. And okay, so what do we got planned for next week? Have we planned that yet?
Well, I thought we would take a break from famous hauntings and have someone who has been doing some paranormal investigations, but he's also had a ghost that has been with him since he was, I think, almost a baby. So he's going to talk about the hauntings that he's experienced and the ghost that still hangs with him today.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
And as we always say, if you guys have a good ghost story and you want to be on the show, when you don't have to have video if you don't want to, we could do audio. But if you'd love to be on the show, just send me an email at psychicfixes@gmail.com and we will make that happen. It'll be great. Be fun. So I can't wait. I can't wait for these are so special. And you guys don't have to hear my ghost stories all the time. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So do join us next Saturday, you guys.
Yes,
And that, of course, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific. And Cara, what time for you guys?
8 p.m. Central.
Okay. And so we will be on and it's going to be great. Michelle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
I am so happy you came on.
Oh, thank you.
It was so great because I could concentrate on, interacting with everybody that was commenting. So that was really great. Oh, thank you, Billy. Let me just put that up. How's that? Awesome ghost stories.
Thank you, Billy.
Okay, we're going to say goodbye and we'll see you guys next Saturday. Remember that Cara accepts tips and her link that was going across to here. You can always get it because you can watch the show again. Also in the descriptions of our shows. Okay, so you can click it and give her a little love. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Night, sweet